Ever heard a story so twisted that it makes you question like everything you thought you knew about human nature?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
It's the perplexing case of Pam Hupp.
It's one of those cases that starts with a seemingly simple premise,
Right.
a murder,
Yeah.
but quickly spirals into a web of deceit,
Oh, yeah.
manipulation, and multiple suspicious deaths.
Exactly. And it all revolves around this seemingly ordinary woman, Pam Hupp.
Right.
We're going to take a deep dive into 3 cases that are all intertwined.
Okay.
The murder of Betsy Faria,
Mm-hmm.
the death of Pam's own mother, Shirley Newman, and the truly baffling killing of Louis Gumpenberger.
Yeah, each case on its own raises questions.
Right.
But when you look at them together,
Yeah.
connections, the timing, and Pam's consistent presence,
Yeah.
it paints a very unsettling picture.
Very unsettling.
Yeah.
Let's start with the tragic murder of Betsy Faria.
Okay.
She was found stabbed to death in her own home back in 2011. Initially, the police focused on her husband, Russ.
And that's where the cracks in the initial investigation begin to show.
Right.
The sources highlight how the police at the time seemed fixated on Russ,
Huh.
despite a lack of physical evidence linking him to the crime
Right.
and some inconsistencies in his alibi.
What's striking is that Pam Hupp enters the picture immediately.
Oh, wow.
She was the last person to see Betsy alive,
Okay.
dropping her off at home after taking her to chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a kicker. Pam was also the beneficiary of Betsy's life insurance policy,
Oh, wow.
a hefty sum of $150,000.
That's a pretty significant detail, and you'd think that would have made Pam a person of interest right away.
Right.
But it seems like the police at the time didn't thoroughly investigate that angle.
It's almost as if Pam was hiding in plain sight, becoming this helpful friend to the police while potentially holding crucial information.
Yeah.
Sadly, Russ was wrongfully convicted of the crime.
Wow.
He spent years fighting to prove his innocence.
Oh, my God.
And it wasn't until 2015 that he was finally acquitted and the case was reopened.
That's where Prosecutor Mike Wood comes in.
Go.
He took a fresh look at the case and quickly realized that Pam Hupp needed to be at the center of the investigation.
Now, the sources you provided bring up another fascinating detail about Betsy's murder.
Yeah.
Unidentified male DNA was found at the crime scene.
Huh.
This raises the question, was Pam working alone?
Right.
Could there have been an accomplice involved in Betsy's death?
That's a crucial question that investigators are still trying to answer.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the other unsettling death connected to Pam Hupp,
Right.
the death of her own mother, Shirley Newman.
This one's a real head-scratcher.
Yeah.
In 2013, just 2 years after Betsy's murder, Shirley Newman was found dead after apparently falling from the balcony of her third-floor apartment.
At first glance, it might have seemed like a tragic accident,
Right.
maybe a misstep by an elderly woman.
Yeah.
But the deeper you dig, the more unsettling the details become. For example, the amount of Ambien, a sleeping medication,
Right.
found in Shirley's system was unusually high.
That's what caught my eye, too.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources mentioned that there were also questions about the broken balcony railing.
Right.
Could someone in Shirley's condition,
Yeah.
with her limited mobility, have generated enough force to break those railings?
Several expert opinions,
Right.
including a forensic pathologist and an engineer,
Yeah.
cast doubt on the accidental ruling.
Okay.
Their analyses indicated that the force needed to break the railings was far greater than what Shirley could have likely produced.
So we have another death.
Yep.
And guess who's there?
Pam Hupp,
Pam Hupp.
of course.
This time she claimed to have left her mother alone in the apartment shortly before the fall.
And here we see another recurring theme.
Okay.
Just like with Betsy's life insurance, Pam stood to gain financially from her mother's death.
Yeah.
She inherited around $100,000 from Shirley's investments.
It's like a twisted echo of the Betsy Faria case. Another death, another financial gain for Pam Hupp.
Right.
And what's truly baffling is that the police received an anonymous tip urging them to investigate Shirley's death further.
Okay.
But guess what?
They didn't interview Pam.
You got it.
Wow.
They maintained the accidental death ruling without even questioning the person who was last with Shirley,
Right.
the person who benefited financially from her death.
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it?
It is unbelievable.
Yeah. And the sources note that later, Pam was found to have documents related to both Betsy and her mother in her car.
Oh, wow.
It's like she was carrying around pieces of these puzzles wherever she went.
Okay, hold on. This is where my jaw dropped.
Okay.
It turns out Pam almost predicted this suspicion during an interview with detectives about Betsy's life insurance policy.
Oh, really?
She actually brought up her mother,
Huh.
almost as a preemptive defense.
Wow.
What did she say?
I'm curious.
She argued that if she wanted insurance money, it would have been easier to kill her own mother, who was worth more.
Wow.
It's as if she was creating a scenario where she appeared innocent, simply because there was a seemingly better target.
That's either incredibly audacious or incredibly naive.
Yeah.
And given everything else we know about Pam, I'm leaning towards audacious.
Me too.
Yeah.
But even with all these red flags, the case of Shirley Newman's death remained closed.
Wow.
And that brings us to the third and perhaps the most bizarre incident in this saga,
Okay.
the murder of Louis Gumpenberger.
This case is where Pam's manipulative tendencies are on full display.
Okay.
She concocted this elaborate scheme to frame Russ Faria,
Okay.
Betsy's husband, for Louis's murder.
Wait, so she tried to frame the guy who was already acquitted of Betsy's murder?
Yes!
It's a whole new level of twisted.
Absolutely.
Wow.
According to the sources, she lured Louis,
Okay.
who had cognitive and physical impairments, to her house under false pretenses,
Okay.
claiming she was a Dateline producer.
Dateline.
Yes, a Dateline producer,
Specialist.
working on a story about Russ.
Did she think she could just pull off this wild impersonation?
It seems so.
Wow.
And tragically, she shot and killed Louis in her home.
Oh my gosh.
Her initial story was that Louis tried to rob her,
Okay.
but the police quickly saw through the charade.
The evidence didn't add up at all.
Not even close.
Right.
And that's when the truly bizarre Dateline element came to light.
Okay.
The police found a note in Louis' pocket with instructions on what to do and say,
Oh, wow.
all designed to make it look like Russ had sent him to extort money from Pam.
It's mind-blowing how she thought she could orchestrate this elaborate plot and get away with it.
I know, it's like something out of a bad movie.
Right.
But the good news is that justice prevailed in this case.
Okay.
Cam's scheme unraveled,
Uh-huh.
and she was arrested and charged with Louis' murder.
Okay, so she was caught red-handed, right?
Well, not exactly.
All right.
This is where the legal complexities come in.
All right.
Instead of going to trial, Pam ended up taking an Alford plea.
That's a fascinating legal maneuver.
It is.
What is it?
Essentially, an Alford plea means that she didn't admit guilt,
Sure.
but acknowledged that the state had enough evidence to convict her.
So she's accepting the consequences of a guilty verdict
Right.
without actually admitting to the crime.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a way to avoid a lengthy trial
Uh-huh.
and potentially a harsher sentence,
Right.
but it also leaves a cloud of ambiguity hanging over the case.
And if that wasn't strange enough, while in custody at the police station, Pam attempted suicide
Oh my gosh.
using a pen.
Yes, that's another detail that really makes you wonder what's going on inside her mind.
Right.
She managed to inflict serious injuries on herself.
Wow.
And the sources even point out that the location of her self-inflicted wounds,
Yeah.
her neck and wrist,
Uh-huh.
were eerily similar to the injuries found on Betsy Faria.
It's chilling, isn't it?
It is.
Like she was trying to mimic the very crime she was accused of covering up.
Yeah,
So we've got 3 deaths,
right.
a web of lies, and a woman who seems to be a master manipulator.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to make of Pam Hupp?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And it's one that has fascinated and perplexed everyone who has followed this case.
It's clear that we need to delve deeper into the psychology of this woman.
Yeah.
What drives someone to seemingly orchestrate such elaborate schemes, manipulate those around them, and potentially take lives with such cold calculation?
That's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll try to understand the mind of Pam Hupp and what might have led her down this dark path.
Right.
Stay tuned because this story is far from over.
I can't wait.
Yeah, this is a wild one.
Absolutely.
Trying to understand Pam Hupp is like
Yeah.
it's like trying to decipher a complex code.
Right.
There are layers of deception,
Uh-huh.
manipulation, and this unsettling lack of empathy
Yeah.
that makes it difficult to pin down who she truly is.
It's fascinating and disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
The sources we have paint this picture of a woman
Mhm.
who can be incredibly charming and disarming one moment
Right.
and then cold and calculating the next.
That duality is a key part of her personality.
Right.
She's able to adapt her persona
Yeah.
depending on the situation,
Right.
which might be why she was able to fool so many people for so long.
It's like she's playing different characters.
Yeah.
Right. The grieving friend,
Yeah.
the concerned daughter,
Mm-hmm.
the victim of a crime.
Right.
And each role seems to serve a specific purpose in her schemes.
Exactly. And we can't ignore the recurring theme of financial gain,
Right.
whether it's the life insurance money from Betsy Faria
Hmm.
or the inheritance from her mother Shirley.
Yeah.
Money seems to be a significant motivator for Pam.
It makes you wonder if she saw these people as obstacles to her own financial security.
Yeah,
Did she calculate the risks and rewards and decide that eliminating these people was the easiest path to getting what she wanted?
that's a chilling thought.
It is.
But if we're talking about understanding Pam's psychology, we need to go beyond just financial motives.
Okay.
The sources we have offer some fascinating insights from various experts who have studied her case.
I'm all ears. This is the part where we try to get inside her head, right?
Right. One expert described her as having an attitude and thinking she's better than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Another suggested she's clever
Yeah.
and probably believes she's smarter than any person in the room.
That tracks with what we've seen,
Yeah.
especially with those elaborate schemes.
Yeah.
It's like she convinced herself that she could outsmart everyone.
Right.
The police, the lawyers, even the Dateline producers.
There's a clear sense of arrogance there.
Yeah.
And several experts have pointed to narcissism as a potential factor.
Okay.
One even went so far as to describe her as a narcissistic, cool, controlling person.
Wow.
It seems like she needs to be in control,
Right.
to manipulate the narrative,
Yeah.
and to always come out on top.
And if things don't go her way, she'll lash out. Maybe even resort to violence.
Mm-mm.
I mean, let's not forget that she shot Louis Gumpenberger in cold blood.
Absolutely.
That's not just manipulation. That's a disturbing lack of empathy.
Absolutely. And her attempted suicide in the police station using a pen
Right.
adds another layer of complexity to her psychological profile.
I keep coming back to that detail.
Yeah.
Was it a genuine cry for help?
Mm-hmm.
A desperate attempt to avoid prison?
Yeah.
Or was it another manipulation tactic?
Some experts believe that it might have been a way to mimic Betsy Faria's injuries,
Oh, wow.
to somehow cast doubt on the evidence against her or create a narrative of victimhood.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
But it also shows how far she's willing to go to protect herself.
Right.
It's almost like she's playing a game, a deadly one,
Uh-huh.
and she's determined to win at all costs.
That's a chilling way to put it.
It is.
But it's not far from the truth.
Right.
Pam Hupp is a master manipulator.
Yeah.
She's able to weave stories, create false realities, and convince people to do her bidding.
Right.
That's what makes her so dangerous.
So where does that leave us?
Mm-hmm.
We've explored the evidence, the investigations,
Right.
and now we're delving into the psychology of this woman.
Yeah.
But there are still so many unanswered questions.
There are, but even without definitive answers,
Yeah.
we can see some patterns emerging.
Okay.
Financial gain, the manipulation, the cold calculation, and this disturbing lack of remorse.
Right.
It all points to a deeply troubled and potentially dangerous individual.
And what about Betsy Faria?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any hope of getting justice for her?
Prosecutor Mike Wood is still working on the case.
Okay.
He believes that Pam's conviction in the Gumpenberger case could be a key to unlocking the truth about Betsy's murder.
Is he hoping she'll confess?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but he might be able to use her current situation,
Okay.
being in prison for life,
Yeah.
as leverage to get her to talk. After all, what does she have to lose at this point?
It's a long shot, but I guess it's worth pursuing. It would be incredible if after all this time,
Right.
the truth about Betsy's murder finally came to light.
It would bring a sense of closure to a case that has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue for so long.
Yeah.
But even if Pam never reveals what truly happened that night,
Right.
her story serves as a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving,
Right.
and that sometimes the most unassuming individuals can harbor the darkest secrets.
And it highlights the importance of staying vigilant,
Yeah,
asking questions, and not taking everything at face value.
absolutely.
We can't let ourselves be blinded by charm or manipulation.
Right.
We need to be critical thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
especially when confronted with stories as complex and unsettling as this one.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another aspect of the Pam Hupp case that's worth exploring.
Okay.
The legal system itself.
Okay.
The mishandling of the initial investigations into both Betsy and Shirley's deaths
Right.
raises some serious questions about how these cases were handled.
You're talking about how Russ Faria was wrongfully convicted?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how the police seemingly overlooked crucial evidence in both cases.
It makes you wonder how many other cases might have slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
How many other innocent people might have been wrongly accused, or how many
Yeah.
perpetrators might have gotten away with their crimes
Mm-hmm.
because of negligence or bias.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
It's like the justice system itself was manipulated by Pam Hupp.
Right.
She was able to use her charm, her lies, and her carefully crafted narratives to deflect suspicion and evade accountability.
And that's why it's so crucial to have a system that is fair, impartial, and thorough.
Absolutely.
We need to ensure that evidence is carefully examined,
Yes.
that all potential leads are pursued,
Mm.
and that justice is served regardless of who the perpetrator might be.
It's a reminder that the fight for justice is ongoing
Yeah.
and that we need to hold those in power accountable for their actions.
Absolutely.
We can't let cases like this one slip through the cracks. We owe it to the victims and their families to keep searching for the truth.
This deep dive has taken us down a dark path,
Yeah, it has.
and it's clear that the Pam Hupp saga is far from over.
But even amidst the darkness, there's a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
The fact that prosecutor Mike Wood is still actively pursuing justice for Betsy Faria
Right.
shows that the truth can prevail even in the most complex and unsettling of cases.
It's a reminder that we can't give up on the pursuit of justice, that we need to keep asking questions,
Yes.
and that we need to hold those in power accountable. It's unsettling to think that someone like Pam Hupp could exist like right among us,
Right.
blending into everyday life while potentially orchestrating such horrific acts.
It is, yeah.
It makes you question how well we can ever truly know someone.
Right. It really challenges our assumptions about who we can trust and who might be capable of unthinkable things.
We've seen how Pam used manipulation and deceit to get what she wanted.
Hmm.
It's a reminder that we need to be aware of those tactics to be able to recognize the red flags and protect ourselves.
Absolutely. The Pam Hupp case serves as a stark example of how manipulation can have devastating consequences.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we need to be vigilant in our own lives, to question things that don't seem right, and to trust our instincts when something feels off.
This case also raises crucial questions about our justice system.
Right.
We've seen how the initial investigations into both Betsy and Shirley's deaths were mishandled,
Right.
how Russ Faria was wrongfully convicted, and how Pam was able to manipulate the system for so long.
It's a stark reminder that the system isn't infallible.
Right.
There are flaws, biases, and human errors that can lead to miscarriages of justice.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of having robust safeguards in place to protect the innocent and ensure that investigations are conducted thoroughly and impartially.
And the fact that prosecutor Mike Wood is still actively pursuing justice for Betsy Faria offers a glimmer of hope. It shows that there are people within the system who are dedicated to uncovering the truth, no matter how challenging the circumstances might be.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that we can't give up on the pursuit of justice.
Right.
Even in cases that seem impossible to solve, there's always a chance that new evidence will emerge, that witnesses will come forward, or that someone, somewhere will hold the key to unlocking the truth.
In Pam Hupp's case, she might be the only one who truly knows what happened to Betsy Faria.
Right.
Whether she ever reveals the truth remains to be seen, but her story serves as a cautionary tale.
It's a reminder that evil can lurk beneath the surface, that appearances can be deceiving, and that we need to be discerning in who we trust and how we interpret the information presented to us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the perplexing world of Pam Hupp,
Yeah,
we're left with more questions than answers.
it seems like it. Yeah.
But I think that's the nature of these complex cases.
Yeah.
There's always more to uncover, more to understand.
And that's the beauty of true crime, isn't it?
Yeah.
It pushes us to think critically, to challenge our assumptions, and to grapple with the darker aspects of human nature.
It's a constant reminder that the world is full of mysteries, and sometimes the most ordinary people can be at the center of the most extraordinary and unsettling events.
And for those of you who are fascinated by these stories, who are drawn to the complexities of the human psyche and the intricacies of criminal investigations,
Yes.
we encourage you to subscribe to the Deep Dive.
We're dedicated to exploring these cases, to peeling back the layers of deception, and to searching for the truth, no matter how elusive it might be.
So until next time, keep your minds open, stay curious, and remember that sometimes the most unassuming individuals can harbor the darkest secrets.